Hi, and welcome to another episode of Smeco Connects. I'm your host, Sonja Cox, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Tom Dennison.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Sonja, for another invitation for our podcast. And today we're joined by two individuals, Sonja, who I know we always talk about our go-to people when it comes to certain things here at Smeco. And when I look across and I see Jennifer and Brian, when I have our members call in about interested programs such as Empower Maryland, or they have high bill complaints or want to understand kind of how to save money on their electric bill, these are the people I call, and they're the experts. So we thought it would be great to have them come in and talk about some tips on energy savings, and then how to approach whenever you maybe buy a new home or you're moving into an older home. So with that as an intro, Jennifer, could you just introduce yourself, tell us what your title is, how long you've been at Smeco?
Hi, yes. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Raley. I am the Energy and Technology Program Director for Demand Side Management. I've been with Smeco for 25 years now, and for the most part, about 17 years of that have been with the Energy Efficiency Group, so helping members save money.
And Brian?
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Holmes. I am an energy analyst. I've been with Smeco for about 16 years, and about 5 of those I've been in my current position as an energy analyst.
Excellent.
So if we were thinking that we're talking to somebody who's never had an electric bill, so they're wondering about different things, how to get started, and maybe how to take advantage of some of our programs and some of the seasonality they might see in their bills. Can maybe we just talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So if you were moving into a home, first-time home buyer, or whether you're renting, one of the things you might be looking at is all of the equipment that's in the house. What do I have here? What do I do with this? We have programs that can help. One of our programs is our HEIP program, the Home Energy Improvement Program, and you can actually have an audit done. And there's no additional cost to have that done. You can sign up for that online, schedule that, and someone will come out and take the time to walk through the home with you and tell you a little bit about the appliances you have, your insulation levels, how your HVAC is running. You can sign up for an HVAC tune-up through that program. So they can come out and do like a whole home analysis for you and give you some ideas of things that you may need to replace or improve upon. And then we have incentives available to help offset the cost of those upgrades.
So is there a charge for the audit itself?
No, there's no additional charge for the audit. The programs come through the Empower Maryland program, which is a charge on your utility bill. So you're already paying into this. So we tell our members, you're paying for it already. Take advantage of the programs. And the Home Energy Improvement Program is one that's really great because you can have that audit done and sit down with that individual and talk with them about what's going on in your home and what repairs may need to be made, what upgrades may need to be made.
And Brian, when it comes to an individual who just moves into a new house or maybe is switching homes or going from an apartment to a single family home, for instance, based on your experience, what are some of the key things that you kind of try to point out for them based on, what they can expect from an electric bill standpoint?
Sure. So the first thing that we tend to look at is providing data. You want to look at seasonal highs and lows and averages of what your new property is going to experience based on historical data. That kind of gives them a baseline of if this is something that they can afford. And then, of course, once you move in, you have different things that you can look at as far as age of equipment. You look at the square footage. You look at if you're switching from gas heat to all electric. Same thing with water heating, cooking, things of that nature. So there's a lot of differences when it comes to what can cause an increase in usage or your utility bill, period, when you haven't had that experience before.
I think it's a great benefit, I think, for someone who may be looking at a new home or someplace to move to, where a realtor or that individual can give us a call, right? And they can say, hey, I'm looking at 795 Elm Street in La Plata. give us some idea of what our electric bills will look like? Is that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's
something we
exactly
do?
what it is. There's no specifics given. It's just trying to give you a gauge of what you're gonna get yourself into if this is the property you decide to move into.
Well, and two, I mean, like you said, if you're going from a house that perhaps had gas, I mean, a gas furnace or, a wood burning stove or a wood burning fireplace or something, and then you just go to all electric, I would assume, help them to balance out, okay, this is what you're paying for your propane bill, and you're going to lose that, but you're likely to see more of an increase in your electric bill because that's your primary heating source. And Jennifer, knowing that the seasonality, the temperature drives everything, right? I mean, that's the big driver,
It
right?
definitely does. The temperature drives everything. If you look at your house, your main portion of your bill is going to be heating and cooling, which the weather has a direct impact on that. Water heating is the next biggest driver. And then you can look at the smaller elements of, lighting and different appliances that you have in the house. But the heating and cooling is going to be the big driver. And that, the seasons around Maryland, we all know how those seasons are. And you can get weather highs and lows,
Yep.
extremes in each month. But yes, it's the weather that plays a big impact on that. And the other thing we talk to our members about, we get a lot of members that reach out, I was out of town, I'm not home during the day, but your heating and cooling's running whether you're home or not. So sometimes it's talking with the members on what's actually running in their home when they're not there, that also enlightens them of, yes, now I can understand my electric bill and why there's charges even when I'm not home or I'm on vacation.
And I guess one way to take care of that would be to have a programmable thermostat, right? So
That's correct.
you
can get that with the Home Energy Improvement Program, signing up for that audit. You can sign up for the HVAC tune-up at the same time. You can sign up to have a smart thermostat installed at no additional charge for the installation, just the difference with the incentive on the thermostat. So it's a minimal charge for the thermostat, but the installation's done at no additional charge. And smart thermostats are great. If you have one, they're wonderful. You can monitor the temperature of your home even when you're not at home. So for me, I decrease it or increase it depending on the season when I'm on vacation or when I'm not home. And then I can increase it as we're coming back or set it where I need it so that it's cool or warm when we get back at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just I'm moving, in the process of moving right now, which I hate, by the way. But I'm moving into the place that I'm moving into has a heat pump water heater. So can you explain to our members what exactly that means, what it is, how it works?
Sure. So I can actually take this one. So your standard conventional water heater has heating elements in it, and it's resistance heat. So it's heating elements to warm the water, and it's how you provide water for the property. With the heat pump water heater, it's similar to what you have outside if you have a heat pump in your yard for your air conditioning and your heating, but instead it's sitting on top of your water heater. So basically the idea is it pulls the air from outside. It uses that air to generate heat in the tank, which is, it could be up to like 40, 50% more efficient. And then that's what it uses to actually generate heat, water heating for the property. Now, there are times, just like your heat pump outside, if the temperatures aren't conducive with providing heating inside the property, the same thing applies with the hot water heater. It does have some sort of heat resistant elements in it, but that's not its primary use of heat for the water.
So what would you do in that case? Like if it's 15 days in a row below 32 degrees, which is, I think, kind of what you're getting at, I guess. Would you switch it to a different mode from off the heat pump?
So for the water heating, no, because it's inside the property. So it's whatever it is recommended you don't put it in like a garage. It's not an insulated space. It has a lot of elements that can be involved within the garage. If it's in your basement, and you keep your property at your comfort level, the only time typically the resistance heat kicks on is if there's a large load of water being used.
Okay.
The heat pump can't keep up with it. So then it has to back into that secondary mode to heat the water so that it's ready when you need it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at all the instructions that came with it, and it's it looks so different than a regular water heater. And I did notice that it had an eco button on it. So I really need to read.
But the bottom line is it saves a lot of electricity, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, about 40 to 50% more efficient.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful to understand when you're talking about the heating elements that those wire elements that are in a water heater, or it's the same concept as a heat pump that's outside your house, where it goes into emergency mode whenever it's really cold out, and when those elements heat up in the HVAC system inside your home to blow that air across, that gobbles up a lot of electricity. And I think that was, knowing the winter we just had, I'm sure that was a lot of conversations you've had with people who've called in, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people still aren't familiar with how heat pumps work. So the heat pump is only efficient up to about 40 degrees. That's kind of the set point. Once the temperatures outside drop below 40, there's no longer any warm air outside to provide heat inside. So then it kicks on your inside furnace, and that's basically like a supersized toaster oven. You know, the heating elements in there, they get hot, and that's what's used to provide heat inside the property. So, you know, when you have those long snaps of where we had temperatures in the teens and even down to the single digits, a lot of people experience auxiliary or emergency heat. And then, of course, that's when you start to see the massive electric usage in those properties.
So what other savings type tips would you have for a member?
I think the first thing is, like you mentioned, would be the programs, and taking advantage of the different rebates that we have available for upgrades. You can also go through getting the smart thermostat installed, and that's a big saver there because, like she mentioned, you can have remote access and you can do scheduling, things of that nature. So if you have a pretty set week, you know, you leave at a certain time, come back at a certain time, you don't have to go in and adjust it. Just get everything programmed and you're good to go. A lot of other things that you could probably do would be logging into Account Manager. You know, Account Manager has some very useful information. There's down to every 15 minutes, so you can look at your usage and you can see how your day played out. You can see when you got up and went to work. You can see no one's home all day. You can see when your kids come home and it's 90 degrees outside, so they're playing with the thermostat, getting it cool. You know, so you can kind of plan your day, or you can plan that usage kind of tells a story of what your day-to-day life is.
Yeah, and you can see, like I said, when you're not home, that there's still usage. There's still energy being used in your home when you're not there. Account Manager is a great tool, and we've used it. We've had members that have called in that have had issues with extremely high bills, and we get looking at it, and we can tell from the data most of the time that something's wrong. So sometimes, you know, if your heating and cooling is running and that unit's broken or not working, functioning properly, you can kind of see that in the usage. So it's good to be able to check your Account Manager, look at your usage. You can see your patterns, your normal patterns, but it can also demonstrate if there's something out of the ordinary going on in your home.
Yeah, we're always out in the community. I know you all are out there, and a lot of times if we have a Smeco shirt on, or we may not have a Smeco shirt on, but they know, people just come up and just say, man, you know, I'm struggling to understand why my bill is what it is. And a lot of times it's just providing information and providing data. You talked about data at the very beginning of this podcast. And that data is all housed in that Account Manager, which is great. And then the other thing that's helpful is to take a look at your actual bill and understand what's on the bill and what goes into the bill. And I sound like a broken record, Sonja, but I carry my bill around with me a lot of times, especially when I'm in Annapolis working with legislators, and I point out what these charges are and how they're derived. And I think a lot of times it's just like, okay, the light bulb goes off and says, okay, now I at least understand what I'm paying for or what I'm not paying for. And so one of those items on the bill is the Empower Maryland program. And Jennifer, you talked about it, that we're all paying this charge no matter what, whether we use the programs or not. So take advantage of the programs. Are there any other Empower Maryland programs that you'd like to highlight before we?
Well, I'll touch on you talking about your bill.
Sure.
SMECO's website is a great resource. You can go to the website and actually, look at what each of those charges, what they are. It gives you a description of each of the charges, so you can go and look at that. You can also go on our website. All the programs are on the website. If you go to www.smeco.coop/save, that'll take you right to the residential programs. And so they're all listed there. There's appliance recycling program. So if you get into your home and there's an old refrigerator, you can have that recycled and get a rebate for doing that. Some of the other things that are on our website is other tips. So when you go to the website and you see all the programs, there's also another section that's savings, ways to save. And there's the how to control booklet. We carry those with us when we're out doing events and stuff, but that is online. And it gives you tips across all the seasons and just things you can do if you're not ready to make upgrades or make changes within the homes, just simple things that you can do. And some tips that on what you should have your settings on for your heating and cooling, and other small tips and things you can do to help reduce your energy costs.
So like you were saying, if you have a program with a thermostat and you're going on vacation, you don't want to leave your air conditioning at 72, which I know you guys recommend everybody leave it at 78, but I can't do that.
Yeah.
But so, if you're going on vacation, you may want to increase that, right?
Yeah.
From my 72 to 78, right?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
80. I don't know.
If during the summer I cut mine up when we go on vacation. I also cut my water heater off at the breaker because there's no sense in heating water and no one's home.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
And I have
Never even thought of
to
doing
write
that.
myself a note as soon as I walk in the door, cut the water
Turn it
heater
back
back
on.
on before somebody takes a shower. But I try to increase the thermostat and make sure everything. We do a walkthrough of the house before we leave. Make sure everything's off because I don't want to be paying for anything more than I need to be paying for while I'm gone. So there's tips on our website for that too. If you're going on vacation and what settings you should use for every day, especially if you're not home. And that's where the smart thermostat's great because even if you have schedules, I used to, when my kids were younger, my mother-in-law would be there. So I would wait until she left and I'd adjust my thermostat right from work. I could cut it up and before she gets back there, I can cut it down. And you can program it to do that if you know what your schedule is going to be consistently. But I love the feature of just being able to adjust it if somebody's home or not home, according to our crazy schedules.
Yeah, knowledge is the key.
Yeah.
And it's just the other thing I think that people can do, and Jennifer, help me out here, but if they have questions, if you have questions about your bill, if you have questions about Empower Maryland programs, and you don't find exactly what you're looking for on the website, they can call in and talk to somebody like Brian or you or members of your team, correct?
Absolutely. Our contact center is great. They can answer a lot of your questions, but if you need to speak with one of the energy analysts, you can always ask and be transferred over to our team, and we'll give you a call and help you with anything whether it's high bills or if you have questions around the programs or just need guidance on where to go. We're here to help.
Yeah, because if somebody's buying a new heat pump for their house or they want to get some tips on contractors who participate in Power Maryland programs, it's all information that we have on our website, and then certainly you all can help them with.
And
as
I say, even speaking of the contractors and stuff, with everything that's going on, the scams and different things that are out there, if there's ever questions you need to confirm that a contractor's a legitimate contractor for SMECO, reach out, call us, and we can confirm whether they're a contractor with the program or whether the saving rebates and stuff that they are telling you about are legit. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. I've heard of there's a few people out in the community now going door to door. And if you have questions, call us and we can confirm that people are legit before you let them into your home or let them do work.
Contract.
Yeah, or sign a contract. Yes.
Just a couple other points before we wrap up. But there are other ways that they can get more certainty in their bills by maybe going on our budget billing program. So, then what your bill is going to be every month, and then it adjusts, once a year, something like that?
So the budget plan is extremely helpful. I've personally been on a budget plan since I moved into my house in 2018. To me, it's just easier to manage your spending, what you spend, but also it gives you an idea of where your usage is compared to what you're paying on the budget. So the way that it works, whether someone has been in a property for a year, they can call in and we base your budget plan off of your yearly average. Now, when you're first moving into a home, it's a little different. What we typically look at is historical data of usage at the property. If it's a new build, then we look at square footage, we look at the type of appliances you have. We ask questions on our questionnaire about how many people are going to live, what your thermostat settings are. So it's a lot more of a calculation or formula that's used. And we do recommend, if that's something that you want to do, definitely fill out the questionnaire. It comes over to our department. We do the calculation, and we reach out to you and let you know what this proposed budget plan amount would be. And after about 6 months, once you start to get your own usage involved, then we can go in and make adjustments if needed.
That sounds great. And I guess the one final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, this episode has been focused on residential, but we do have programs for commercial accounts as well, right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
yes. We have our small business program, which is great. If you qualify based on your demand usage, you can have up to 80% of it covered, the upgrades covered. So just reach out, go online. Like I said, we have a lot of information online, and that can answer a lot of the questions you have. But the small business program is great. If you don't qualify for the small business program, we have prescriptive programs. So if you're changing out lighting, you're replacing the lighting you're taking out, replacing it with LEDs, there's an incentive based on what you're doing. So you can kind of get an idea of the incentive that you would get for that.
Yeah, we know everyone's struggling. Residential, we're mostly heavily residential, but a lot of small businesses are struggling right now too. We have the tariffs that have been added. Gas prices have gone through the roof. So I filled up my car today. It cost me $85, and a month ago it probably would have been $55. You know, so everybody's seeing this. So we just want our members to know that we're here and we can try to help them in any way that we can. And I appreciate you guys coming on today. Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
Did you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to just say thank you. Thank you both for what you do. You guys have been so helpful in cases where I've had people who are just at their wits' end, and knowing that I can provide them some information, but then handing them off to a professional like you all and your team of analysts is a really good benefit, I think, for our folks. So thank you very much for everything. And
Yes.
Thank you.
thanks for sharing the knowledge. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.